Good evening and welcome to a live edition of the Magpie Circle. And I thought it was going to be fairly straightforward looking ahead tonight, but life is never dull as a Notts County fan. So clearly the agenda will be dominated tonight by the announcement within the last 90 minutes that Notts County's assistant manager Maurice Ross has left the club with immediate effect. No further comment has been made by the club. That decision has been taken quite literally 24 hours before one of our final 7 games of the season in the race for the playoffs. Lots of comments already coming on that. We will be trying to give you as much information as we understand about that. Your thoughts, your views. Welcome to Les Brad, the club's all-time record leading scorer. Les, delighted to have you on board again.
Good to be on, Paul, and I can see you've got a little bit of a tan there. Are you on holiday? It's not the normal backdrop behind you.
I am down in Cornwall at the minute, hence there are no shirts in the backdrop. I think windburn will be about the best you will get today. About 2.5 inches of rain since 2 o'clock. But I know it's a part of the world that you like as well, Les.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah, and also debutante on our midweek show, Chloe, big Notts fan, Chloe Page. You've been on with your granddad on one of our Saturday morning fan shows. You can give us the young person's view on being a Notts County fan, student up in Manchester. Warm welcome to the show, Chloe.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, great to have you on board. Right, as I say, things kind of take care of itself for the first half hour. I did want to have a decent look as well at our promotion playoff run in. There has been a full set of fixtures, minus our game with Sutton tomorrow, and the upshot of that is that we are now 4 points off the playoff place, the final playoff place, which by my reckoning is held by Bromley. We stay in 10th place, but the good news, as we can discuss in a little bit later, is that, believe it or not, getting into the playoffs is entirely in our own hands as a result of the 2 games that we have in hand over Eastleigh, Chesterfield, Bromley and Wrexham, and 3 over Halifax. Believe it or not, 5th place still mathematically is in our hands, not anybody else's. Clearly, we're going to need to put a few results together. Clearly, that cause has not been helped by today's or this afternoon's announcement. The club has put out a 21-word statement in which it said that assistant head coach Maurice Ross has this afternoon left the club with immediate effect. We will be making no further comment. Let's get a few thoughts on our messages, and then we'll go to Les for your thoughts on this. Richard Hawksworth says, owners need to make a public statement. Now is not the time for silence. Mark Reap says, I don't know what to think anymore. I believe every manager deserves some time, but recruitment, owners' decisions and results are all concerning. Paul Taylor, should be good viewing figures tonight, Paul. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Tess, the owners their stupid philosophy led to Burchnall's stupid appointment and has destroyed this season. I'm not sure whether the noise in the background, as those of you who watched this show before when Les is on, was a very dodgy ringtone, Les, or whether it was that cuckoo clock going off again.
That was my mobile phone calling from down in Plymouth, former player, so you can guess what it will be about.
Yeah, absolutely. Neil Dudley, it's obvious to me there are problems in the dressing room between players and management. Lee Brearley, can't wait for this show. Kate Oliver Ramsden, we need answers, Notts. Darren Smart says, I can see IB throwing the towel in next, especially if we are humiliated against Sutton tomorrow. K9 Mewers, we need answers. This is turning into a shambles. Mark Davidson, I thought these owners were all about stability. SB, rumours that IB has walked, but just rumours at the moment. PJ Defiance, hang on one sec, I've just had another barrage of coming in. Ian Burchnall, this is our follower, not Ian Burchnall, the manager. Nice to see stability has returned to our club. You couldn't write this, he says, with a certain hint of sarcasm. Can't necessarily read Michael Walls out because clearly we do have legal implications as to the situation, so we can't repeat what we don't know didn't happen. John Parr, unbelievable, what a mess this season, turning into a nightmare. Have to wonder how long Ian has. Brandon, fractured squad, questionable manager, smoke and mirrors behind the scenes, worrying times are back at the Lane. Paul Hawksworth, have they grabbed the opportunity to make space for a manager to come in? Kay Muir's, worrying times. Peter Minkley, unless we get specific information from within the club, we can only speculate. This is becoming a shambles. Mark Reap, keep Burchnall as coach, find a manager. Richard Hawksworth, I'm afraid the owners are reaping what they have sown with the appalling decisions that have been made. Testical, we could be 4 or 40 points off, makes no difference, isn't going to happen. Balham, hi Paul, Les and Chloe, I'm from southwest London, Balham. I actually volunteer at Sutton. That's interesting. My question is, after your last minute winner, why do Notts change manager every few months? And asking about the game tomorrow. Okay, so you can see already this is clearly creating huge discussion among fans, and I think let's just call it frustration. Firstly, thank you, because we are properly independent on this show. Thank you to Notts County tonight. Clearly, Les, you have some work commitments with the club on a part-time basis, and it would have been very easy for the club to have removed your availability from the show. The club have been in touch, so I thank the club for allowing you to come on. I think everybody at Notts County trusts you implicitly to handle situations diplomatically. But my question to you, Les, what do you make of this announcement and Maurice leaving the club?
First of all, I'm very shocked that Maurice has left the club. I was very fortunate to be asked to go and watch a full training session last Thursday, and the players looked like they were all behind both the manager and his assistant. The training session was very positive. It was all attack-minded, trying to get the players into a mindset of scoring more goals without forgetting about the defensive responsibilities as well. So straight away, my thoughts went, well, at least the players are behind both the manager and his assistant. They're working hard. They're trying to come out of this rut. And if I go back to watching the game against Dagenham and Redbridge, when we lost the goalkeeper after a few minutes and we played with 10 men and went 3 goals up, I was nearly crying because I thought, what an exhibition that has been, and that this is a defining moment for Notts County moving forward, and they'll go on and they could possibly get to the first spot. And since that game, I think that it's been nothing but uncertainty. You know, we have picked up points, but not in a positive way, really. I don't think it's been very difficult. And now it's a real struggle to get a win. Even going 2 up against Torquay, you're thinking that's it. We've turned the corner, and then we concede a couple of goals. So it is very, very difficult. And I'm just like the rest of the fans, really. I'm a fan now, and I watch them, and I want them to win. And it's very difficult to know. But certainly, when I look back to where the season ended just over a year ago with the pandemic, and how well we were playing at that time, and the squad that we had at that time, how it's sort of, I don't know what the word is it deteriorated? Is it a lesser quality squad? But they don't seem to be playing with anything like the confidence that they had 12 months ago. And, it's been a struggle to score a goal. And at the same time, it's been easy for the opposition to get goals. So I just hope that maybe when we play the bigger clubs, because if you analyse the big games this season, we've done pretty well. Stockport a win and a draw, and Sutton we beat Sutton, didn't we, down early season? I know we haven't done so well against Hartlepool, but generally against the better opposition, we tend to be okay. So let's hope that tomorrow night we can turn it round.
Chloe, you're up in Manchester, student on UFCB course. I mean, presumably, like the rest of us, when you heard about the news, it was one of shock.
Yeah, definitely. It's the timing. It was just very random. It was obviously the club's been boycotting social media this weekend, so we've heard nothing from the club, and this was the first kind of contact that we've had. Obviously, that I got the message through BBC Nottingham Sport myself, and it was just very surreal. And I don't think it will have been a decision that came lightly, especially with the big game tomorrow. But it makes you wonder where it has come from.
Yeah, I mean, Les, obviously Ian came with Maurice as his number 2, and this was only 5 weeks ago. How much does losing your number 2 so early into a period of management in England for the first time, how much is that going to affect, potentially undermine what Ian is trying to achieve here?
Well, going back to that training session, they worked hand in hand with each other. Ian had got half the group and Mo the other half, and it will be very, very difficult for one man to take the rest, to move this on. So yeah, we're all surmising, guessing. Nobody knows what is happening at this stage. Tomorrow morning there could be somebody else down there that's going to be in there to help. As I say, we're just guessing. It is very difficult. I'm completely gobsmacked by the decision. I don't know what has happened. So I think in the statement they did say that there would be further information released at some time. I believe, didn't it, as well?
Well, it appears from the statement that I've seen, it's actually the opposite, Les. They say that we will be making no further comment. That would imply there is not a plan to elaborate on the reasoning or the rationale. That's the statement that I've seen anyway. Yeah.
Well, it will be very difficult for Ian to carry on with the remaining matches on his own, particularly at this moment in time when they need a lift. But let's keep our fingers crossed and let's hope that something happens and we can get something positive going, ready for the match tomorrow night.
Okay. Clearly, we have to be very careful about what is said and even please on what is sent in on the comments. My understanding of this is that the decision to remove Maurice is entirely independent of Ian's own position at the club. So a lot of people have been putting 2 and 2 and saying one's gone, that's Ian will be going shortly, etc., and it is a timing issue, if you like. As I understand it, that is not the case. And as I understand it, this decision has been taken as a standalone decision in relation to Maurice, nothing to do with Ian. But clearly it is to do with Ian because Maurice was his number 2. I think I've also said on this show in previous weeks that recruitment was going, I think everyone would accept, going to be a hugely important part of the equation in the summer. And clearly the club are looking at for want of a better phrase, Moneyball, a data ball approach. I think if Maurice had still been here in the summer, I think that there may well have been, shall we say, full and frank discussions in the players that the coaching staff might be looking at, and the players that might be being looked at through the data modelling, if you want to call it that, under Richard Montague's department. Clearly, Maurice is not going to. It will not be here for that. As a player, Les, and as Chloe's pointed out, it's unusual timing in the sense that this is quite literally 24 hours before. I know the next game is always the most important, but clearly it's a massive game tomorrow. With not still harbouring hopes of playoffs. As a player, how does this or doesn't this affect them?
The players will have been affected with the decision that Neil left. That's in the first instance, and then you've got new guys coming in, and the players will have been thinking, well, what's gone wrong here? We've only lost one in not, quite a few games. So their mindset will have changed, and in comes a new guy and different training methods with the same aim to win matches. So you have to settle down to that. So they do get hardened players to working with a manager and the manager's traits and the manager's little ways of giving you a G up or maybe knocking you down. So all that goes hand in hand, and that they will be wondering, like we are, as to what has happened. Something must have happened to have caused this dismissal. They're very ardent. That they're just the same as us. They wear that black and white shirt. They want to go out there and win. I have never, ever come across a single player that has never wanted to go out on the pitch and not play. Some get confused and might look a little slow. They're confused because they don't know what the manager wants from them. But their intentions going out there are always that they want to win that game of football. But they are hardened people as well, players. They do get used to this sort of knockback, and they wait that they will go in tomorrow, and I would imagine that the manager will grab them together and he'll be on the front foot and he'll explain the reasons why this has happened, and he'll be geeing the players up and wanting 100% from them.
Final question, then we'll go to Chloe. How much harder does this make the job for Ian Burchnall to achieve at Notts County? Les, did you pick that question up?
Yeah, did you ask? Sorry, I thought you was asking Chloe.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I was saying to speak. This question for you, Les. Then we'll move on to Chloe.
Sorry.
How much does this undermine Ian Burchnall's capabilities and ability to deliver what he wants to deliver at Notts County?
What, the decision to
remove his number two, both short term this season and longer term?
And until we know the reason why that he's gone, then it's difficult to make a decision. I don't know anything about it at this stage. It could have been something that has upset Ian. We don't know, do we? So it's difficult to pass comment on that at all. I mean, as I go back to last week, the training ground was full of enthusiasm. Couldn't wait to go to Torquay and give them a game, which they did, and should have won and came out with a draw. The manager will, just like the players, roll his sleeves up. He won't sulk. He'll want to. Ian's a determined man. I've met him, talked with him, seen he's very, very positive. He wants to get into the playoffs. So you know, I'm pretty sure that won't be an issue at all. He'll be on the front foot, but he will know. I'm sure he will know the reason why Mo has left the club. So from that side of it, then there's no confusion and a reason to move on.
Moving on, Chloe. So Les and I are from the Jurassic era. You kind of are you're the young, you are the young blood of Notts County. Yeah, my son, people of teenagers, 20-year-olds, and it's been an incredibly lean time. What's been your take of the past few weeks? What's your take on Notts getting into the playoffs, and how important is it to you that when you can come back and watch Notts County, Bromley in less than a month's time, there'll be something riding on that, Weymouth, there'll be something riding on that game from a playoff perspective?
It's been a crazy season, as it always is. It's never something straightforward, but obviously with Ardley leaving and Ian coming in and now Mo going, it's all as dropping in and out of playoffs. I just think from the position we've been in this season, and it has been in our own hands, we've had a lot of game in hands on a lot of different clubs, and it always has been down to us. And it has been disappointing to see us drop out of them playoffs after we were in them for so long. And we was talking about a couple of weeks ago, even getting top spot, which might have been a big ask at the time. I'd just like something to pick up. And if we do get to go to that, is it the Bromley game at home? Whatever our last home game of the season is. Yeah. Oh, is it Weymouth?
Yeah.
Then it won't be for nothing. I'd like to think that the game means something so the fans can go down and really get behind them, because they've got one chance this season to get behind them, and it will be that game. So it's now in our hands and the players' hands to go and then go out and fight. So when we are back, there will be something to play for. And I think from all ages perspectives, this season, watching from behind closed doors and home or away, or however you've been watching it over the streams, it's been a very difficult year for everyone. So just to get back to Meadow Lane, especially with something to play for, it will help massively with everyone, I think.
Okay, Chloe. A few more observations from fans. MF25, Ian should be judged next season after they've had a pre-season and he's got his own players in. Thick Woofers 24, there's a name for you. Difference is Ardley inherited a squad in the bottom of the table, IB inherited a squad in the top 5. And that kind of gets to the point of differing views between Notts fans as to where we are and how we move forward. Kian Henson, hope things start to work out before fans come back. That's clearly echoing your point there, Chloe. MF25, it's not like we've been playing well, though. Our position in the top 5 was clearly not secure. Colin Metcalf, serious questions need to be answered by our owners or fans, or serious questions need to be answered by our owners, or fans will start making their own answers up. I've reached my limit with the total farce year after year. Thick Woofers, so perhaps we stuck with Ardley for too long. We must now stick with IB in blind faith, should we? Here's an interesting one. Mr. Neil H.O. Get Martin Allen in until the end of the season as his number 2 or as director of football. IB seems a little overwhelmed by the role. Les, we've got Sutton tomorrow. And up until that kickoff time, I'm clearly, as fans, we're going to be debating the Maurice Ross issue of what happened. Does it lead to? How seriously does it undermine Ian's future position, etc., etc. From a player's perspective, clearly the whistle goes at 3 o'clock, and we are at it. We can potentially complete a league double over Sutton tomorrow, can't we? Does it work for us in a way that there's arguably more pressure on Sutton for this game than there is on us?
There's pressure on us because we haven't been getting results, and it's gone on for too long. And even while Neil was here, before the changeover of managers, it was a bit iffy, wasn't we? We'd lost at Halifax at home and Chesterfield at home, and we'd pulled back from two games away, 2-0 down to get to 2-2. So the results weren't great. Were they the early signs of what we're seeing now? I just don't know. But I've said before, I feel that we haven't recruited as well as we should have done in terms of losing Wes Thomas and Christian Dennis. We've not, and another name that never gets mentioned is Mitch Rose in midfield. He was a ball winner. He got in there and won the ball, and we've not seemed to have been able to get that right. But the owners have a very, very successful data business, football data, not only on players but on managers and teams. So they will have done a lot of research into both Ian and Mo. It's not just come out of the blue to bring these guys in with their model for football. And maybe, I'm pretty sure that it will all come down to the recruitment, getting it right with a view to starting pre-season, next year's pre-season. Whilst they still want to go up, but they want to get that squad right for Ian to manage moving forward.
Chloe, how important we make the playoffs?
I'd hate to say vital, but I just look back on our season and I go, it's always been in touching distance, and it's been disappointing that we've dropped out. But like we say, you look at these, it's the same players as the Dagenham game. We all know they can go and do it. And we've only got a few games left. So as much as the performances, a lot of there's arguments about the performances, the results have dropped at least. So I think it is important. And I think it gets even harder next season. So, and it'd just be nice to give it another go after last season with the same players, pretty much. They were the ones that had the defeat at Wembley. And I can only imagine how much they want to go and relive that and prove everyone wrong and go and do it this season. But I think it's a big ask.
As some of you have pointed out on the chat, it's 5 o'clock. It's on BT Sport as well. So it's going to have a bit of a big match feel tomorrow, and I think Sutton are 4 points behind Torquay now after the Torquay victory today. If I remember right, we were pretty organised at Sutton, Les, and we nicked a late winner, didn't we? We nicked a late winner. How do you think potentially it pans out tomorrow?
How does it pan out? Sutton are not a team that give many chances away. I'm pretty sure that Ian will have had them today and he'll be talking positive. And I think it will be all about coming out on the front foot, getting stuck into them. Hopefully that's what we see. And we see the ball in the Sutton half, or the last third of their half, more regularly than we have been doing in recent matches, and we can create a few chances and hopefully get an early goal that will settle the lads down and give them a big plus to move on and play, hopefully.
Yeah, you talk about playing in the opposition half intensity. I was watching the stream on Saturday, and it did appear, of course it's not deliberate, and of course everyone is trying their very, very best. But in those closing stages at 1-1, there did seem to be a lack of real, if you like, going for it. And in the last 10 minutes, we still had a lot of possession, but there would appear to have been, an awful lot of passes kept in our half of the field and not asking questions in the opposition box. And I think this was, a lot of fans' frustrations, not necessarily when Ian was here, but when Neil was here, that, we've had an awful lot of possession this season. But but it's not always been reflected in us going for the jugular, Chloe.
Yeah, I completely agree. Chances have been few and far between, and when they have come, unfortunately, we've got to take our chances. It's all right when you get 10 or so and you put one in, but we're not getting that many. And I think it's just a case of just somebody, it needs to come off somebody's knee, or we just need to get, especially Wootton. I don't think he's bothered how he scores anymore. We're just, like I say, chances are few and far between, and especially at the other end as well. It's set pieces. If we stop conceding as many corners as possible, stop the free kicks from outside the box, you're helping yourselves. And we might not be good at with set pieces, but if you limit how many you give away, you're giving yourself a better chance. And the same with chances. The amount of times you get that ball into the box, it can come off anybody. So just stick it in, even if you don't think the ball's on, and you just create more chances for yourselves. And so it can come from anywhere. A goal can come from anywhere, but we need to give ourselves the best opportunity possible.
Goal scoring. We've got a member of our panel that knows a thing or two about that. Unlikely ever to be eclipsed as Notts County's all-time record-leading goal scorer. There's been a debate about Kyle Wootton the past week or so, Les. Big, tall centre-forward, as you were. Kyle clearly hasn't been able to find the net for 10 or more games now. Many people will say he's very much our best striker by a country mile. Some people say he needs resting. Casting your expert goal-scoring eye on Kyle, where do you think he is at the minute?
I think he's had a tough time all season. He's lost his two strike partners, Christian Dennis and Wes Thomas. They were players when we were playing, I felt, more directly last year. When the ball went up to Kyle, he was winning most of the headers, or laying it off. And he got to know, through working with those two players I've just mentioned, to flick it on and they'd be running in the back. So what happens in that case is that the centre half is a little bit wary about going in and challenging you, because you're likely to win that ball and people are running in at the back of you. So it's a big plus for a striker when you're starting to get free headers. He's not had that luxury this season, and the centre halves know there's nobody running in the back, or there hasn't been too much of that, and they're just going clattering him. So he's found it tough, and we haven't been getting as many balls in the box, which obviously means that he's going to find it more difficult to get onto a chance. And when he does get the chance, because there's not many of them, he wants to make sure, and he's looking to put it into the corner as opposed to just going and laying your boot or your head on it. And in trying to make sure he's sometimes missed the target, shall we put it that way. And I think I had a spell, I think it was 10 matches in the old second division. And whatever I was doing here, the keeper was saving it or hit the post or whatever. And I broke my duck. It was against Fulham, where Davy Needham had headed it. And I charged in on it, and the centre half on the line cleared the ball, whacked it straight against my thigh, and it cannoned into the net. That's how I got off this long spell without scoring. So I think it will be, when it does come, this goal, it will be one that maybe not, shall we say, in his top 10 goals. If you analyse most of the goals that we score this season, they're all contenders for goal of the season. How many scruffy goals have we scored? You know, and that is a thing that Ian has been working on that session that I saw. He was working on the area where most goals are scored. That's from the D going through to the 6-yard box, getting balls in there and getting players attacking that area. So we keep working on that. Then I'm pretty sure that chances will come and eventually they'll go in the net.
Chloe, you're a big fan of Jimmy Knowles, aren't you?
I am, but it's a lot to ask. What is he, 18, 19 years old? Like we've talked about, you've taken Dennis and Thomas out of the side. The Thomas one was a bit of a strange one, but that was almost 30 goals last season. And then you're putting all of this pressure on Wootton, who's only mid-20s again, and then an 18, 19-year-old who's, I think's done really well. And he gives us something different and he takes the pressure off Wootton a bit. And I think you're asking far too much of him. But to be honest, perfectly honest, if we was given the opportunity, I'd go and sign him because I think we need to be getting the youngsters through the squad. I don't mind having experience in, but you need the legs, and he gives us that. And you keep in, all he needs is games, and he's only going to get better by playing. And whether that's up to us, and I don't know, but it gives Wootton something else and just takes the pressure off a little bit. But taking Dennis and Thomas out, it was huge. And especially we lost Roberts as well, which is another goal scorer. And we took a lot of goals out of the team this season. And I think it was a lot of pressure to ask Wootton to step up and just keep scoring the way he did last season. So, but like I said, last season, if he ever went through a bit of a drought, one of the other two would pick up. But we haven't really had that this season. But I think give Jimmy Knowles the chance. But I was speaking to one of my friends who's actually a Mansfield fan, and every time he scores, she texts me saying we need him because we haven't got any goal scorers. And I'm saying, well, I'd rather we sign him than you keep him. So,
yeah, I mean, we had Neil Bishop on the show a week or two ago, because Neil is involved at Mansfield, and I think it's pretty clear that Mansfield are going to take him back in the summer and give him a full pre-season, and Nigel Clough will run the rule over him, give him an opportunity in first team friendlies, and I think it's kind of for him to earn a place at Mansfield first and foremost. And I think there has to be an outcome from that before there would be any chance that we would be able to get him back. I mean, one striker we have brought in, Les, Lewis Knight, and I guess it's unfortunate in a way that the last time we plucked a young striker from National League North, he made that transition very, very, very seamlessly, i.e. Kel Roberts. And I guess we automatically, kind of think Lewis Knight is going to be Kel Roberts Mark II. And within, 90 minutes or so, he's going to be at it. And I think given that Bradford had finished their season, he clearly had a lot of fitness to make up. But he's probably more likely to be one next season than right now in, if you like, relieving that goal burden that falls very heavily on Kyle's shoulders at the moment, Les.
Absolutely. He looks a young man with great potential. He's come on. He's finding his feet in a league a lot higher than he's been playing before. And it takes you time to get adjusted, and you get a few kicks and a few knocks along the way, and that's how you learn. But he's also come into a team that hasn't been scoring goals quite as freely as they did just over a year ago when Cal came. Cal made a huge difference in us, shall we say, changing out of third gear into top gear, and Lewis has come in now, and he's looking at trying to get from second to third, shall we say, with his goals. But no, he's doing all right, but he's certainly one for the future. He's not one that you can say, well, he's going to bang us a goal in the, like we're looking at Kyle. There's a lot of pressure on Kyle because if he doesn't score, who else is scoring?
Chloe, Sutton tomorrow, and you've kind of mentioned this already in terms of playoffs. What do you think is the mood? You obviously mix with younger Notts fans more so than me or Les. There would appear to be two camps of Notts fans that I talk to anyway. One that says this is all too much for Ian, cut our losses, and the other one that says he needs to have the full pre-season. He needs to bring his own players in. We need to give him time in the way that Neil wasn't able to turn round the good ship Notts County when he came in League Two. What are the thoughts, views of our younger fans?
Well, I can't speak for everyone, obviously, but the people I speak to, I think a lot of them are jumping on the bandwagon of the results haven't gone our way, get rid. Because we're so used to, as soon as something going badly, the manager's out. And in the recent years, we haven't really given many people time. And like I say, as soon as something's gone wrong, it's someone else. So they're so used to that being the case. Whereas the older generation, they've seen like Jimmy Cyril be here for years, and I'm sure he'll have gone through rough spells, and you just kind of get through it. And Ardley, he was here for a good stint, and I think once that ended, everyone was kind of expecting someone to walk in that knew the league. And as soon as no one had heard of this guy, and as soon as we lost that cup game, which I know was big for younger fans, especially, we've never been to the new Wembley before, he kind of got off to a bad start, and then that continued. And I think everyone that didn't want him in the first place was kind of like, that was my point proven. Whereas you've got to sit back and look at it from a bigger perspective than, well, a few results haven't gone our way. But I think, like I say, they're just so used to having a quick turnaround of managers. So it was always going to be difficult no matter who came in, because of the expectations of, we've been in the playoffs virtually all season, and we've even been within touching distance of top spot with the games in hand that we've had. So I think as soon as we started to drop out of that, a lot of especially young fans were kind of like, we want out this league, we want back into the EFL. But it's kind of one of them, how long do you give the timing of the arrival or the sacking of Ardley coming just before one of the biggest games of the season at that point? I don't think it sat well with fans, especially the young ones, like I say, with going to Wembley. And maybe they'd have opened him with a bit more open arms come the end of the season, and then he'd have had the whole of the pre-season to get his own players in, and then he'll have had the kickstart of next season. But it's happened now, and you just, if you don't want to back the manager, back the players, and because you can't start turning on them now, not with this short amount to go.
Very good, very good.
If I can just add to that, Paul, is what we don't talk about as well is from the players' side of it. The players are professionals and they're used to playing their football matches with crowds, and a number of those players have come to Notts County knowing the size of the club and the crowd that it gets, and they've enjoyed, and their performances have been good with crowds in there to support them. And I talk to the players down there, and they say they miss the crowd so much. And you've mentioned earlier about keeping possession, passing the ball around. Most matches that you watch, whether it's 5 minutes gone or whether it's 85 minutes gone, you would look at the game and you think Notts County were winning the way they were playing passing the ball around. And I think that has been an advantage to teams coming to Meadow Lane, because they come along and they must look at the stadium, they must look at the pitch and think, this is great, can't wait to play here. And they're playing on there without a crowd in there. And I think that is a big advantage this year. The players have told me that they hate going out there with no crowd in there. I spoke with Kyle. He just loves the crowd in there, and he loves to hear them getting behind the team. And I think sometimes when it's flat, the crowd help and they lift the team. That hasn't been the case. So roll on getting crowds back to watch the football matches.
A few more thoughts from our listeners and watchers. Ian Burchnall, we're struggling to put in a consistent performance game to game. We have to put this right if we want to make the playoffs, whether we have games in hand or not. David Brock says a ridiculous decision to get rid of Ardley in the first place. We look set to make the playoffs again. Some Notts fans think we are Real Madrid. Ardley was an experienced manager and adequate. What else have we got here? Tess Tikel says the owners have such a good stats and database modelling business that they brought in Ian as head coach. If they sold me a dud like that, I'd be asking for a refund. Chris B, recruitment. Reeves was brought in to replace Rose. That's Ardley's poor decision. Ballum, Sutton fan, is reminding us that we scored in the 90+3rd minute. Makes a change for us conceding in about the 90+8th at Torquay. Lee Houston, surely the sacking of Maurice Ross has undermined the Notts County management. I can't see Ian Burchnall staying. Real shame. Hate management always getting the blame. They haven't even made a signing. I guess that's echoing your point, Chloe. Mark Leach. If Ian does get sacked or if he does walk, then I feel Doyle should take over till the end of the season. Darren Price, sorry about that. Tess Tikel, we don't need any stats. We need players who can roll their sleeves up in tough games and character. We have none of it right now. Darren Price, don't agree, Les. Players are professional and should go out with the will to win, with or without fans. Nick Goring, crowds has nothing to do with it. It's the same for all. These are paid professionals. Vinny Starr, I take losing in the playoffs to 10th place. Neil would have been out of contract and no one would have had a problem with the manager being let go, and the new one could start with a blank stroke clean slate. Les, I want to come back to the implications, if you like, and the fallout and the consequences of Maurice leaving. I think it's no one would disagree that, you know, we talk about baptisms of fire, but Ian Burchnall could not have envisaged such a set of circumstances upon his arrival into the English National League. From the game that Chloe's mentioned, losing at home to Hornchurch, who were a team that had been furloughed, to miss out on a trip to Wembley. 2 wins in 8, dropping out of the playoffs and looking in a pretty solid position, and now having the hammer blow of losing your right-hand man. You know, Ian's got to be very, very, very resilient here. How do you think he's coping with all of this?
Well, on the occasions that I've seen him, he has been and spoken with him, everything is very, very positive. Even after a defeat, when I haven't been down there regular, but I have seen him 2 or 3 times, and he's always in a very positive mind, looking forward to the next game and winning the next game. So things don't seem to get him down, on the face of it. Maybe behind the scenes or in that office of his, then maybe that's a different story. But as I say, I'm not privy to talking with the players so far about their dealings with the manager. I've seen them on the training ground. They are very, very positive to all what was said to them. So I can only think that it's just a matter of time before we can turn this tide and move on and get 3 points.
We've got games in hand, but clearly games in hand need to be translated. What would you say, Les, in terms of the importance of making the playoffs? Because, there is a school of thought among some Notts fans, well, we won't win them anyway. But how important is it, from your perspective, to put a run together to get into the top 7, back into the top 7?
My experience obviously was built around a manager by the name of Jimmy Searle, who taught us how to win as a group. That didn't happen in 1, 2 or 3 games. That took a lot of games, and twice weekly on the training ground, playing full 90-minute matches to understand how he wanted us to play. So I don't expect miracles from Ian. He did take over a team in the top playoff positions with games in hand, and it hasn't gone well. He'll be tinkering behind the scenes to try and get things more positive, and also to try and stop us conceding goals, shall we say, that have probably been given a little bit too easy. He's a nice bloke. I just wish him every success. But it must be very, very difficult under the circumstances that he's working in. What he wants to do with the team, with the squad, when he's limited to the time on the training ground, when they're playing on Saturday and Tuesday.
Les, could I just butt in there, because I've just been seeing some of the messages, and this quite literally is happening as we speak. So Maurice Ross has made the following statement, according to BBC Radio Nottingham Sport. Right. So this is Maurice's own statement. During Saturday's match at Altrincham, I made an ill-judged comment to a member of our playing staff, which has led to my departure from the club. I would also like to apologise to the club's board of directors, supporters and Ian Burchnall, all of whom I have enjoyed working with immensely. The club have handled today's events impeccably, and everyone at Meadow Lane has my full support for the rest of the season and beyond. I will be taking some time to reflect on my actions and learn from this experience before continuing my coaching journey. Now, that was kind of what I had heard and what I was trying to allude to without giving out too much detail at the beginning of the show. So, as has been confirmed there, this was an individual action, if you like, taken by Maurice that has no bearing on Notts County's results on the pitch, no bearing on player recruitment, no reflection on his relationship with Ian Burchnall. This is, I guess, for want of a better phrase, an inappropriate comment. Les, thoughts?
Jimmy Searle might not have lasted too long with Notts County. Would Neil Warnock have lost? I don't know what he said. Obviously, it's offended somebody. And was it done with the group, or we don't know? But obviously, it's offensive, and you can't accept that this day and age. And we now know what the reasons for him losing his job. It's just. I don't know what's being said, but somebody's obviously taken offence to it, and he's gone. So that's all acceptable. You know, going back to the players and how they deal with it, they'll the rest of the team will be there. They'll be supporting the player. They'll be behind the manager still, and he'll be looking for somebody to bring in to help him, I would think now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing from that is that. It was a very short statement issued by the club, and clearly a lot of fans were very concerned because they wanted more information. Clearly, that more information has now been provided by Maurice himself, and I'm sure that statement would have been agreed in conjunction with the club. And the club probably knew when they were making their short statement 2 hours ago that this was probably part of the plan. So I think now, Chloe, there can be some form of closure. The wild speculation can sort of be reined back in, and I'm sure everyone will hypothesize about what was actually said and what wasn't said, but I guess we can understand broadly the sort of thing that was said that in modern society is not acceptable. And if you use certain language, certain phrases, are guilty of certain types of personal criticism, then they are it's immediately sanctionable. Any thoughts, Chloe?
Well, my first assumption was it was something personal, something along them lines, and that's why the club didn't want to get into it. And we will never know what was said, and we don't need to know. I think you've said it perfectly. It's closure. The fact there needs to be a line between what fans know and what they need to know. As long as the players, it was vitally clear why you left, and there was no kind of grey area. I think it needs to be closed off now. He's gone, and it's clearly been a big decision and is something very personal. So that's it, draw a line under it. I think the players will do exactly the same. They'll know why he's been sacked. So they know they've got one job to do. And I don't think it'll play on their minds. It might have done if it was kind of a grey area and they never really told the players what was going on. As long as they've been straight up and they know exactly what's happened, they'll turn their focus to the game, and that's all they will focus on.
So I think we can all agree that the consequences of the actions of Maurice have been dealt with properly and professionally. However, Les, clearly it does not help our cause overall of reaching those playoffs. And it does appear right now that there seem to be so many problems, if you like, befalling us. The reality of the situation is to make the playoffs. If you look at the situation at the minute, Halifax have got 62 points. Wrexham have got 58. Bromley have got 58. Chesterfield and Eastleigh are on 56. We are on 54. We have 2 games in hand on all of those teams, with the exception of Halifax, on whom we have 3. So although it looks not great, 4 points off the playoffs, nevertheless, it remains mathematically in our hands. I think the reality is, of those last 7 games, we have to win, I would suggest, a minimum of 4. A minimum of 4. That may or may not be enough, but we are playing Bromley twice. So I think you would need to get the right results against Bromley in however you divvy up whether you think we need to win 4 or 5 of the last 7. With everything that's happened, Les, is this group of players within at the helm now know Maurice Ross capable of doing that?
What we do know is he said something wrong this day and age to one of the players, or more than one of the players. You've passed comment about the game on Saturday, that late on we didn't seem to be urgent trying to win the game. I don't know this, but he might have been shouting out instructions to get more urgent, and maybe that didn't go. That might be the reason why he's said something that he shouldn't have done after the game. I don't know. But what I do know is that players, managers, coaches, they will always draw a line and move on. And the players will be coming tomorrow night, and it might gee them up. They might feel that what he said might have been, I don't know what he said, I'm only guessing, but it might have been, get your finger out and, do something a bit quicker, stronger. I don't know. And so they might think he was right in saying that, and it might help them to get on the front foot, shall we say. The manager might be using that to, who knows, but they are resilient people. That will be gone. That's a chapter gone, and we move on. We're playing against a team who's up there, expected to get promotion. Let's go and win them. That will be what's in all of those players that's going to wear a black and white shirt tomorrow night. They will have no fear about Sutton. They will want to think that they can go out and win that game.
Chloe?
In terms of are they capable, there's a lot of talk and speculation on so-called dead ward, and these polls on Twitter that I know fans have made where supporters is basically a list of the players and whether we should keep or get rid. And that's talk at the end of the season. For now, these are the players we've got. Have they done it this season? Yes. Especially we keep going back to that Dagenham game. They put in a performance like that for the rest of the season, which they're capable of. I don't care whether you think we should keep them in the summer or not, because that's talk in a few weeks' time when the season's over. For now, can these players do it? Yes. Whether they're good enough to win the playoffs or whether they're good enough to keep next season, that's a completely different story. Are they capable now? Yes, I believe so. Even with performances or results or whatever, can they go and scrape a few wins together? Yes, and they've been in the playoffs nearly all season. And like I say, we keep going back to that Dagenham game because for me it's the highlight of the season. You go down to 10 men and you've got your captain in goal he's not the tallest of people, but to put in a performance like we did, and they didn't really trouble Doyle because we played so well in that game. They can do it, and I'm not really bothered whether people slag off performances or results. You look back over the season, and these same players have done it before, so why can't they do it again till the end of the season?
Very good, very good. I believe
also, Paul, a number of those players' contracts might be finished at the end of the season, and they'll be looking to stay in football. Whether it's at Notts County or elsewhere. So they will be performing, trying to sell themselves. So they will be looking to play. Don't worry about
that. Lee Brady says, Chloe, I take your positivity. There you go. There seems to be debate among fans in terms of, along the lines that you mentioned, I think, Les, that Jimmy Cyril wouldn't have lasted very long. But I think the point here is that times change, and what you could have said 30 years ago or 40 years ago that we would have grown up with as second nature is not now acceptable with a new set of rules that are written by people in authority and power now, and you have to conform and abide to them. I remember we had Kevin Nicholson on talking with Neil Bishop and about how they would berate each other on the pitch. And Kevin said, now when you are coaching under 18s, there is not that level of antagonism and forthrightness to each other. You know, he said if you spoke like that now, they wouldn't speak to each other for 3 weeks, says Kev. So society changes. It would appear that Maurice accepts totally that he is in the wrong from the comments that are being attributed to him. So we move on. Northants Pie echoed a bit of your point as well, Les. This could galvanise the squad. I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. Now we've had a Sutton fan on all evening with us, Ballum. Now he's asked a question. Clearly, he's a Sutton man. Who does he think is going to win the race to the automatic top spot? Who do you reckon, Les? Sutton, Torquay, Stockport.
Well, the form team at the moment is Stockport, isn't it? They're scoring goals for fun. It's still tight. I think Hartlepool lost, didn't they? Well, that they were going very strong. That's a difficult one. I wouldn't like to put money on it, but I think as an outside bet, I would go with Stockport.
Okay, Chloe, who's your money on for winning the league?
I completely agree. I was listening to your podcast with Lee Curtis as well the other day, and I think that'd be best for us as well. I'd like to see them out the league, and they're not then our problem next season. So get them up, and hopefully it might go in our favour a little bit.
Yeah, Ballum, I'm sticking with Torquay. I think they had their bad spell, and I think if you look at playing us, they scraped a point in the 98th minute. They then got a win 4 days later in the 96th minute. They've won again today, and to me, they're kind of capitalising on little bits of good fortune when they've been able to eke out results. And I just think that little bit of a gap they've got now. I think they've got momentum. I think you're quite right, Les. I think Stockport will absolutely chase them down, because you can see Stockport winning the last 4 or 5, 6 games, or how many they've got left. I think Torquay will still have enough just to finish a bit above them. But in terms of our own playoffs, I am an eternal optimist. And if we can finish in 7th, quite clearly we would have won a few games. And it's amazing how momentum changes. Kevin Nicholson said to us in the show 2 or 3 weeks ago, he would have a bet whoever finished second would not win the playoffs. Because no matter how well you've done to finish second, if you've gone close and just get pipped, you then think, I've got to play all these ruddy games now. And momentum's a very interesting thing. Chesterfield looked unstoppable themselves, didn't they? With James Rowe, remarkable run, but they've kind of hit the buffers now. 1 win in 4 or 1 win in 5, and so they are not the prospect they were 3 weeks ago. And I know it's a big if, but you clearly take one game at a time. But if you're going to pick a team to play, you'd be picking Barnet, and we've got them away on Saturday. If we could just eke out some results going into those playoffs with our fan base as well, with our fan base, that will play a part. We've also got our fellow panelist, and this, I think, is an interesting point. And we don't want to labour it too much, but I think it demonstrates the Maurice Ross situation, let's call it like that, in terms of different approach from different age groups. And already, if there is a straw poll of the people on our message boards here that I'm looking through now, those of a 40, 50 and above, in our day, you could say this, all the players these days have no backbone, etc., etc. But times have changed. And Beth Curzon's just dropped us a note, so because she couldn't join us tonight. And it's a good point that she makes. Hi all, quote, end of podcast. Sensitivity and easily offended doesn't come into it. Doesn't come into it at all. A comment worthy of a sackable offence is serious and is never defendable. We move on to Sutton game. So there is a different perspective on things to those of a Jurassic era, and we live in different times, and you have to conform and abide and work under the rules of society today, not what were necessarily the rules of society 30 or 40 years ago. And I know that will split opinion. But that's part and parcel of why on these shows we will always strive to have a proper cross-section of views from players wherever we can, from a more mature generation to young people, to Chloe, to Beth, because it's a cross-section. It's a cross-section. PJ Defiant says, hey, Beth, totally agree. Derek Flowers, give it a rest. We're not getting into playoffs. Just accept it. You can't accept it. No, you can't. You can't. Honestly, you can't. You never give in. You never quit. While there's life, there's hope. Yeah. And I think also, you can never strip ambition away from a football club. As fans, we want to see us succeed, and you've got to do everything you can. Final thoughts, Les, on what has been a fairly eventful 3 hours since the announcement of Maurice Ross's departure.
Well, I can say 100% that Ian is doing his utmost best to get the team on the front foot and win football matches. He wants to get in the playoffs. That is a certainty. So don't think that anybody think that he's not trying. He definitely is. I don't know why we've gone into this, shall we say, it's a bit of a rut that's lasted for a long, long time in missing chances, in conceding silly goals, balls, headers, that we should be clearing, and we're not. I can't give an answer to it, and I'm pretty sure that there must be an answer for it somewhere along the line. The players this season, I've not spoken to any of them, but I would say it's difficult to say that any one of those players is playing better than they were doing last season. I don't know if you agree with me or not. Why? I've heard Alex Lacey talking about the virus as being something that's come into Notts County, that 80%, I think he's told me, of the players have had it. And he's got a feeling that he thinks that that's part of the reason. So we don't know how this virus has affected people, do we? In terms of fitness, it's something. This season is a really strange one to me, and I can't wait for it to finish and get the crowds back, and let's get back to normal, and then we see football as normal as it should be played, and they urge the players on, they shout at them when they miss chances, and that's what we expect. That's how we see football, isn't it? So I'm just hoping that tomorrow night we can get a little bit of a rub of the green. I don't think we've had much of that this season, and it carries us forward, and we get a good result, we get a win, and then I might start thinking about playoff places then. Until then, it's not in my head. We need a positive performance to give everybody a lift.
Chloe?
Yeah, just really quickly to go back to the fans. I've seen a few comments as we've been going along saying it's the same for everyone. But, if you listen to teams that have come down to Meadow Lane, especially this season, it is their cup final coming down to Meadow Lane. The teams in this league, they've said as soon as we came down, we just want to go to Meadow Lane and beat them. And I totally believe that's made 10 times easier without the fans there. They've got to think about one thing and one thing only, getting the ball in the back of the net. And they've got nobody to stop them from doing that, especially with the fans. And you look at the Premier League clubs, Liverpool, they hadn't lost at home in a couple of seasons. And you're telling me that's all down to them missing Van Dijk all season. Their fans are massive to them, and they carry them through games, and they are the fourth man. And it's exactly the same at Notts, and it has been for a while. Whether the fans are on the backs of the players, I was listening to Conor Rawlinson the other day, even getting on at the players, it gives them a boost to go, well, I don't want to do that again. And I think it is wrong to say that, well, all clubs have not had it, but for a club like us, that our fans have been massive through whatever league we've been in, whatever position in the league we've been in. It's huge to not have them there, and it must hit the players hard, but we've got to deal with it, and that's just that. And if we, by some miracle, we do get into the playoffs, I know people don't want to keep talking about it, but if by some miracle we get there, it's got to be in a run of form, like you've said. To get there, we've got to be in form. And you get the fans back, it might give them that last push to give it a good go. And we'll just have to see. We might not get there. So if we do, I think, and the fans are back, it does give that extra push, and it might just go in our favour. And we all think we've had a terrible season, but, if we end up giving it a good go in the playoffs, will you look back on the season and go, well, fair enough, and we gave it a good go in a tough year? But we'll have to wait and see.
One point before we just finally wrap up that I think is worth commenting on and just developing a little less, because we've had a couple of people mention this. Chris B says, you'd think Doyle would step into assistant in the short term. What do we think? There is only a very small number of games. In your view, can Ian do this all off his own bat for the final 7 games? Does he need a stand-in assistant? Would Michael Doyle be a possible to fill a dual role as player coach, do you think?
I think during his spell at the club, he's been that as he is now. He's a player that the squad look up to in every training session. He's at the forefront. He's running quicker. The younger players tell me they can't keep up with him. And he has a voice out there as well on the pitch. He lets them know when things aren't right. So he is acting like an assistant. I think, and the colleagues, his colleagues, respect him for that. If you're going to say be a player and be an assistant manager as well, I'm not so sure that will work. It will work if they say he's not going to play anymore. He's going to be the assistant manager and take the training session. I don't see it working as a player and assistant, if you understand what I mean.
Chloe?
I just think that, well, I don't know the dynamic at the club. I'm not in training. I just think that would there be much point in it? Because he's already captain and you don't want to take him. If we need him on the pitch. And as captain, you've seen him talk on the pitch. He is the leader. Whether you like him or whether you don't, he's the leader. Would it make much difference giving him the title of assistant? I don't think it'd change much. His role would still be exactly the same. So I think he's doing that role, being a player anyway. He doesn't need to be on the touchlines. He knows the players better than anybody does at the club. So I don't think he needs an official title. He needs to just carry on doing what he's doing. He shouldn't be focusing on, oh, should I be stepping up to be assistant manager? That might come in the future. But for now, we need him on the pitch or in and around the squad as much as possible. And his voice will still be heard as if he was the assistant manager because he's club captain. So I don't really think it'd make much difference whether he was assistant or not. So I think he's got a voice as it is. So we'll keep it going there.
Let's wrap up on a positive. Mick Dundee, I haven't heard any fat lady singing the playoffs next, then promotion. Come on, you pies. That's a positive way to end. Les, Chloe, thank you ever so much for joining us tonight. Thank you as always to all our listeners and viewers. When you watch this back, please put on the comment section literally hundreds tonight. You'll also see a little red subscribe button on there. For those of you who aren't already subscribed to the Magpie Circle, just click that red button. It's entirely free, doesn't cost you anything, just gives you a better user and experience when you watch future episodes. We will be back post Sutton on Wednesday, and we've got a very good show for you on Wednesday. Mark Stallard, who's always great value, will be joining us on Wednesday alongside Lee Curtis. That's Wednesday at 7. That's it from myself, from Les, and from Chloe. Thank you very much indeed for watching and listening in. We'll see you all soon.